that up front. The topic which was given to me to speak to this event, obviously the theme is very common, we know, domestic violence, and it'll be naive if we deny that domestic violence does not exist. And here we're just focusing our Islamic communities. We're not, talking about the American society. And then the statistics will just, go off the chart. The ayat or the verse of Quran that I recited, I was going to actually talk about this verse that you guys used over here as "Hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna," that they're men and women are garments for each other. But you already used that example, so I'll skip over it, but I'll explain a little bit in detail as to what this garment means over here. The verse that I chose is from the 30th chapter of Quran, verse number 21, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is counting or telling the signs as He counts different ayat and different signs that we can ponder over to realize that this world is not going to end over here, and there's nothing in the hereafter. There are all the signs for us to look at, and then ponder and think about that there's actually a hereafter where we all will be held accountable. So this verse says, "And among His signs is that He created you from mates from among yourselves, that you may dwell in tranquility with them, and He has put love and mercy between your hearts." Quran 30:21. Verse is very simple. It's talking about this union between man and wife. I'm not going to be able to go into all the different types of domestic abuse that exist among our communities and societies. I'll just only focus on this aspect of husband and wife as to how it escalates and to what extent it goes. And unlike Mill, I will hopefully be given the solutions at the end as well, or the means, as you said, at the end as well, as to how we can prevent these things from escalating and getting out of hands. There are some misunderstandings about some of the verses of Quran where some of the contemporary interpreters of Quran, how they looked at some of these verses of Quran and how they have translated them, or how they have interpreted the meanings of some of these verses. And I'm pointing toward a verse from Surah Ahzab, which inshallah we will, if we have time, we'll get to that as well. Over here, I just want to start, obviously, the main concept over here about domestic violence and the verse that I recited. We have this Quran, which claims itself to be the complete book of guidance, where verses such as that says that there's nothing has been left out of this book, nothing wet or dry that we have not mentioned in this book. Ma farratna min shay'in, we have not left anything out of this book. Here you will stand up and say, well, this is a book of 600 some pages. It's claiming that it has every single thing in it. How does that make any sense? Sensibly speaking, if you look at it, it does not go into some of the fields that people have explored and discovered today. So how could this Quran be making such claims, such big claims? This is where we see the need that Quran itself is not enough. You will need someone who will be able to give you the correct meanings and the translations of the verses of Quran, because we are unable to understand directly by our own perception with our lack of knowledge as to what God is trying to say. So we need someone who's appointed by God in order for us to understand the correct meaning of the verses of Quran. So before we go ahead and judge Quran, before we go ahead and start translating these verses according to our own perceptions, that is completely wrong. We have to look it through the infallibles, the Prophet, the way he explained it, the way he came about and showed us through his example. He said, our Prophet, again, following his example, he set examples before he ordered someone to go ahead and do something. It wasn't that he wasn't practicing it and he was telling others to go ahead and do it. For example, I can stand here over here and I can talk about how bad it is to do this, how bad it is to lie, how bad it is to backbite and whatnot. But then you see me doing the same exact thing, you will say, what kind of examples are you setting? So we need to have perfect examples. We need to have examples such as the infallible Prophet, in which he himself was saying this. He said, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِنِسَائِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِنِسَائِهِ. He says that I recommend that you treat women with goodness. The best of you are those who treat their wives the best, and I treat my wives the best. He said, best among you are those who treat their wives the best, and I am the one who treats his wife or his wives the best possible manner. That's one. Another place he said, خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهلي. Best among you is the one who treats his family members in the best possible manner. And then he said, best among you is I am, who treats his family members in the best possible manner. No one can supersede me. No one can go beyond the way I have taken care of my family. These are just two traditions from our Prophet. Domestic violence is a single major cause of injury to women in America. Nearly 1/4 of women in the United States, more than 12 million, will be abused by a current or former partner sometime during their lives, according to American Medical Association. And despite all of the teachings by Islam of justice and compassion and the verse that I just recited in front of you, many Muslim women in the United States are no exception. So it's not just for American women. Muslim women are no exception, even with all the emphasis Islam has put upon this thing. Even with all the examples that we have from our Prophet and Imams, still you will see that Muslim women are still battered around. Forms of abuse, there are different forms of abuse. I'm just going to go ahead and lay out these outlines, inshallah, and hopefully I will be able to give solutions towards the end. The most common form of abuse is the emotional and the mental abuse. We all think that, hitting and this and that would be the biggest cause. No, the mental abuse and the one that is actually going to go ahead and cause emotional damage to this person is the biggest form of abuse. Because when you are mentally disturbed, when you're emotionally disturbed, you are less, at that point you're more hurt than if you were beaten by someone. So that's just for the record. In Muslim homes, this includes verbal threats to divorce the wife, to remarry, or to take the kids away if he does not do exactly as she's told, intimidations and threats of harm, degradation, humiliation, insults, ridicule, name-calling, criticism, false accusation, and it goes on and on and on. I can go on, and there's so many things that I can say over here, but I'll just stop over here. Although it is completely contrary to the example set by our Prophet as to how he left his legacy. If we can just only hold on to the legacy of our Prophet, we have done our job on this part. Muslim community nonetheless tends to dismiss the seriousness of this mental abuse, and I'm glad for organizations such as the one we are blessed with the presence that she's running, and the other organizations that are actually trying to work for this cause. That's at one point. Second type of abuse is the physical abuse. There's no mentioning as to what extent it runs and where do they get the permit to go ahead and abuse and to go ahead and physically abuse someone. That includes pushing, shoving, choking, slapping, punching, kicking, beating, and whatnot. And you can go ahead and start, using they're using different types of weapons and whatnot. Physical abuse, it escalates in frequency and severity. The third abuse is the sexual abuse that we see that also exists among the Muslim families. So why do men abuse their wives? Sometimes over here, I'm only going to be speaking on behalf of the women,